Welcome to today's artifact. This is show number 9, which is on government-provided fallout shelter equipment. Now, I told you in the last show when we did the food that I would be doing this so you could see what you would find in regular fallout shelters. I was optimistic I could do that in one show. That's just too much because, as you can see, I have this one, which will be today's show, which will be about what you found in a U.S. government-approved site for people, which would include businesses, schools, and other buildings. Then, in the middle here, I have a little section which is the fallout shelter if you have one at home material. Now, it just has a small container if you bought this. All this has to be provided. But there are a lot of pamphlets that the government provided for people. And even an award, if you could fill out all the forms, send them in and show them that you were in good shape. And then last but not least, is if you're in Switzerland when everything fell apart, this is the set of material that would have been in every Swiss fallout shelter. And it makes this other material look like toys. So I'm going to do the one with the U.S. government today. The next one will be on one at home, and that will include some of the plans that the government provided in case you wanted to do your own fallout shelter. And then, of course, we'll go through the magnificent Swiss one. So I'm down here in the dungeon because I didn't have enough room on my desk in order to do this. So we'll move upstairs now to my office, to my library, and we'll take a better look at this material provided by the U.S. government if you went to a fallout shelter. Well, it's better. We're back here in the office, and we want to look at this material, this equipment that we have here. Now, you would expect to have a Geiger counter. That's what you have here. And there is obviously it comes with a device that shows you instructions, how to set it up, how to check it. This is supposed to, it runs on batteries. Hopefully they've kept fresh batteries available. When I opened this up, the batteries had not been changed, but it still works. I put new batteries in and cleaned the contacts. It works pretty well. This is metal. In theory, you're supposed to just kind of keep this around to see, like a door or something, to see whether or not radiation is getting in. If it is, then you have to figure out how to stop it or to move your people. There are people who would be putting suits on and going outside every day or so to check the radiation background. Because remember, it's supposed to fall at a certain amount of time. And after 14 days, you're supposed to be able to go home. So this is the nice one. I'm not sure that any regular government building that was covered with equipment and food received this. This may have been something that the higher-ups used, or people with more fancier titles. But you certainly would have something like that. I'll show you what the real one looks like. Then you have this. This is a rate meter, which you also have on the Geiger counter. And it's a dosimeter. And this is, you're supposed to keep this out and let it just sit. And you use this pen to make it work. You can wear this pen if you go outside. This then checks how much radiation that you've had. You can then compare it here. You can also check the rate meter using this as well. This is what replaced, if you watch the old 1950s movies with radiation, they always had the clipped pieces of film on their coats. This is what replaced that. As you can see, the official yellow with the CDC and Bendix Corporation logo on it. All right? So you would have those two. That's literally all you'd have other than your food and your water and anything the people that brought to the shelter. What about the other one? Now, I was very fortunate, and one of my friends was a civil defense coordinator. And when they threw all the stuff out that they had to throw out, he let me come by and pick something. So I picked this. At the time, it was unopened. And it says, Radiological Survey Meter, Model 5, manufactured by the Victorine Instrument Company, Cleveland, Ohio. And it has its serial numbers and everything. So, you actually get a chance to see what was in the box. So you would have had in your shelter, you would have had all those cans of biscuits, and you would have had the cans where the water would go. Of course, they were empty, remember, to begin with. They should have been filled up. And then you would have had probably one of these for each shelter. So let's open it up and see what we have. Ooh, first of all, impressive. This is the plastic yellow strap that you put on your Geiger counter as you walk around. And I'm surprised that after all these years, it still is flexible and fine. But then again, it was in the box all along. Then we reach down, and I have to be careful because obviously I've had this out before. When I first took it out, the handle was broken. Yes, the handle was broken. And it also has some paint over a section. Now, let me compare this to the fancy one, okay? You'll be able to see this. I'll put a picture up on the screen so you can see it better. Very heavy, probably could take quite a beating. Look at those metal fasteners. Well, we got little metal clips here and a little metal clip here. Did not have any batteries in it when I opened it up. And but it has basically the same readings on the front, just not with the real fancy dials. This one is kind of just, you set it with another device up here. But it was plastic, and then I have glued it with Gorilla Glue, but I do not want to test it at this particular point. So that's the equivalent of your Geiger counter. Frequently, this is pretty much the condition that you find some of those that are available for sale on eBay. And when I was at the Atomic Energy Museum in Albuquerque, they had all kinds of these that you could buy. And your choice was working, non-working. This is where I got this one, from up there. They said it didn't work, but I got it to work. I hope I never have to use it. And of course, it comes with, I'm going to reach in here, the big surprise. We're all dead with radiation by now. Ah! There's the plastic handle that lets you turn the dial. So you can make it and adjust it however you want. And it's the manual for instruction. And it's the same as the manual for this. Actually, this is a better model, so it's rated pretty much the same. Made by the same company, made in the same place. 5806 U Avenue, Cleveland 3, Ohio. And the table of contents, general description, theory of operation, installation, operation, replaceable parts. Of course, during a nuclear attack, you're not going to have much choice to find parts for those. And then it has all these different things, how to put the batteries in. They suggest that you don't, keep your batteries in. And by the way, they use D-cell batteries, 2 of them. So that was pretty easy to keep around. And it has troubleshooting, tells you what's wrong, how you can fix it. And then all sorts of other little graphs and charts. So this is our equipment. Now, of course, if you didn't understand this when you went to the shelter, all you knew the shelter was for was to protect you from an attack. Now, there would have been people who knew what was going on. When I was a kid, this was all some of us in the neighborhood did, is plan for the commies to come and get us. But we were well aware of, for example, how much radiation you could take. And by the way, the radiation limits that they had, and I'll talk about that more next time when I do the in-house one, because the in-house equipment is very specific on how much radiation you can get. But if you look at what they had for numbers then and what the numbers are now, you realize that they were probably 50% overly optimistic how much radiation you could actually take. But nobody wants to scare you to death. I mean, we used to talk about, well, the Russians, they have those great big underground subway systems. And I've known people who came from Russia and talked to them about that. And they said they didn't have anything there. People referred to them as gigantic mortuaries. So you have that. But this is what you had. So again, if you remind yourself, all right, it's 1962, it's Cuban Missile Crisis. It goes bad. The missiles are flying. You're going to your office building basement. You're going to your school building. You're going to pound on the door of your neighbor who has a shelter, and you're going to try to get in. And what are you going to find? You've seen the biscuits, 750 calories a day. And you've seen the equipment, hopefully, that's in there. And you'll hope that the person who is in charge of your shelter has training in this. As far as I can tell, the only training manual I found was on how to feed the people. I haven't come up with any of the others. I would assume they would give you a course in this so you could see how it would work. But I have found nothing where they talk about how do you deal with mass hysteria, people screaming and whatever, at people's anxieties. I mean, I'm doing this in August of 2021, and we have people who don't want to take vaccinations. We have people who are taking worming medication, thinking it might cure COVID. One can only imagine what it would have been like in the 60s with people coming in having really not any idea as to what radiation was. I remember when the couple of my buddies and I in the neighborhood became really up on this. I even sent off to Oak Ridge, Tennessee for radiation materials that they just gave out free. And we'd go through those and go, okay, this is what we can take, and what are we going to do? But we were still reassured by Reese's Elementary School basement with that sign that said, Government Fallout Shelter. So I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to eventually get to some other more, less intense material, showing you swords and some other things. But we've got 2 more of these to do. I'll do the one with the home one. I think the home one's very fascinating. Whenever I taught American history and I do the Cold War, that's the one that just everybody goes, oh my God. Yeah. Is that what the government thought we could sort of survive for 14 days in? Which one of them, by the way, is just simply using a culvert. And you and your family live in the culvert for 14 days. Well, and you can imagine the problems that entails. But they really like that one. And then, of course, I would then finish up the presentations. It usually took a couple of days with the one from Switzerland, which is just absolutely stunning. And there's no question that the people in charge of a Swiss fallout shelter were really well trained as to how to run one of those things. So once again, thank you very much. And if you like this, please feel free to like and subscribe. And if you're interested in history, I do podcasts 6 days a week usually on various topics in history. You go to historyaccordingtobob.com. And of course, obviously you're on my YouTube channel, so you can look at some of the other stuff on the YouTube channel. So thank you very much.